Hello everyone, and welcome to Now You're Playing with Power, a Nintendo podcast. We are here on New Year's Day, hopefully, as long as this goes up as planned, and this is the 4th episode. And with me today I have Bally, who is
Happy New Year!
She's in the spirit, let's say, of the new year. Some alcohol may have been consumed. I'm not going to say either way.
I was at a Christmas lunch.
Yeah, a Christmas lunch on the 18th of December. Totally legitimate.
Yeah, totally legit.
Indeed. Anyway, we have a show for you today, and we're going to be pretty packed with some good content. We're of course going to kick things off with our usual what we've been playing segment, but coming up after that, Bally, do you want to lay it out?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct that happened today, which is December the 18th. So give you guys our feedback on what we think, the ups and downs, the massive surprises that there definitely were. And then following that, we're going to talk about our predictions for 2013. So we'll do 3.
2014.
Did I say 2013?
You did indeed.
Sigh. Right, yeah, 2014 predictions. So yeah, we'll give 3 predictions each. And yeah, hopefully I'll sober up by then.
We'll see. I don't know. I have no idea. Just fucking going by the seat of our pants here. Oh my god. Okay, so let's go into the first segment, which is of course the shit we've been playing. For us, it's only been 3 days since we recorded, so not a huge amount to be doing. But Bally, I heard that you're
I piled in a lot of playing.
You're on the Metroid Fusion train, which I could not be happier about.
So I got this secret to tell you. I don't know if you know this, but you know I have a special role within Nintendo.
Do you?
I'm a Nintendo ambassador.
You're a Nintendo ambassador?
Yeah, I'm a Nintendo ambassador.
Wow, that sounds like a really cool title. I wish
I know, right?
I could be an ambassador. In fact, let me just check my 3D. Oh, I have a certificate. It tells me I'm Nintendo. Bally, we're both Nintendo ambassadors.
I feel so privileged. It's such a luxurious badge to have for someone who's basically a sucker for buying a 3DS on day one.
Exactly. We're the dumbasses here.
Yeah, so even though I'm a dumbass, to make up for it, I got Fire Emblem, Sacred Stones, and I also got Metroid Fusion, along with a bazillion other games.
10. 20 actually, if you're counting the NES ones.
Yeah,
but yeah,
20. We'll go 20. So
it's a lot. When they first announced that, and they were like, "Oh, by the way, here are 20 free games," I was freaking the fuck out. I was like, "Wow, that's really cool."
It's like, wow, that £300 sounds a lot cheaper now. But so yeah, I was going to talk about Sacred Stones first.
All right,
which I've piled a good 17 hours into. I've not played it a whole lot recently. But I was just going to give you maybe my first impressions of the game, and yeah, I mean, you were keen for me to play this, and I was really sort of adverse to the idea of trying a Fire Emblem. I'd never really played a Japanese RPG other than Pokemon, unless you can think of any that I might have played.
No, I can't think of any, and even with Fire Emblem, it's not strictly a JRPG. It does kind of...
What is it
It straddles the line between RPG and strategy, and it kind of crutches on both. I wouldn't say it's either one or the other, like, distinctly. Like, there are key elements of both of those genres in this game.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not, like, completely oblivious to this kind of not fighting mechanic, like the battle mechanic, in the sense that I'm actually quite a big fan of Advance Wars, and I've played that for a number of years actually, and given it a go on DS as well as GBA, I think. So I'm a big fan of Advance Wars, and I really like that combat mechanism. So I knew about that already, but this was just completely different in terms of the stats of all the units, and obviously there's so much more importance on whether a unit dies or not, and that's your character gone for the entire game if they die. But overall, I really like the idea of Fire Emblem in general, and love the fighting mechanic, and love the story. And that's something that I'd say Advance Wars definitely lacks in comparison to Fire Emblem, is a story.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Fire Emblem is, you know, with Advance Wars, you are basically doing very similar things, but in terms of the units you're deploying, they're basically nameless and faceless, and if you lose them, well, hey, that's kind of the nature of war, as it were. Whereas in Fire Emblem, you just have these personal attachments, because each character is named, each character has a backstory, each character has artwork associated with them, and they are all differentiated from one another, and so when you lose one, it happens lots, and it happens.
It really fucks you over.
Yeah. If you're one of the people who wants to finish the game with everyone intact and make sure you have every character, the kind of completionist way to go, then it will, you know, sometimes push you to points of extreme frustration where you may want to just give up and leave the game, which has happened to me, you know, from time to time. It's most acutely it happened to me in Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, which is a game that I feel is not very good in general, so I kind of was okay in leaving that one behind. It's my least favourite Fire Emblem game, and I feel that is very much mired in the old mechanics because it is a remake of the original, and though they did update it to some degree, it still feels like an older game. And it just got to this point where there was this one map where all these ballistas were strewn around, and there's literally like 12, 15 ballistas, and like one hit from them will kill certain units, and it just is so fucking annoying because you just can't get to the end without losing some stuff. So it's a problem.
Back to Sacred Stones, I really struggled with this game in the sense that they hardly hold your hand at all, it felt like. It just felt so, here are your units, here's who you have to fight, get on with it, if you die, you die, tough shit. And I was like left completely baffled as to what was good. They talk about the swords being good on, oh god,
axes.
Swords are good on axes, lances good on swords, axes good on
Lances.
I remember
SAL. If you just remember SAL, it's swords to axe to lance, and then it goes lance back to swords.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if I was sober, but yeah. But so yeah, I really struggled with that, and just the way that they mention it but don't really keep reinforcing it, and because of my, you know, short-term memory loss, I really struggled just going through missions, failing dramatically. But other than that, there's just not a whole lot of guidance on what, regardless of the triangle, what units are good on what. There's a whole separate magic triangle I'm not even going to talk about. And just where you should put the bulky units, where you should put the lightweight units, how you should use the lightweight units. Stuff like Pegasus Knights always get fucked over by everything, and it's just well, apart from magic obviously, but they get fucked over by like range, and they never tell you that. It just happens, you know.
Well, yeah, I can't quite remember is the thing, because Sacred Stones is the second title that they brought out in America. It's the second Fire Emblem that came out in the West. And so the first one had a very lengthy, and essentially the entire first kind of story arc with Lyn in Fire Emblem 7 is a giant tutorial, and they teach you everything, and they tell you exactly what goes against what, and where you should place your units, and what units are good against what, and all that kind of stuff is very, very well telegraphed in that tutorial section. And Sacred Stones, I guess, doesn't really do that, although I don't really have like a good enough memory to remember, because like I had already played Fire Emblem when I got Sacred Stones. I didn't own a game, but I had played it before, so I was very much aware of the mechanics and how they worked.
So why don't they put the original on the ambassador program? Because I'm just so lost a lot of the time.
I think a lot of the reason they didn't do that is because it's a more popular game, and if they had the choice to put one there, Sacred Stones would make more sense, because I think that they feel they would sell more copies of Fire Emblem 7 in the eShop as opposed to Sacred Stones. Like, 7 is a game which has more of a cult following than Sacred Stone. Like the following and the fandom surrounding that game is much larger, I feel, than Sacred Stones. So I think they feel like they could sell more copies of the other one, which is why they chose to give this one away.
Cool.
And it's also like a much easier game in general than Fire Emblem 7, even though it doesn't really tutorialize anything. Overall, the game I feel is easier. So
I'm currently at the level where you meet Prince Inez,
and this is Erica's story, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Has it split? I think it has split. No, you're right. So yeah, really struggling because I keep trying to save my weakest units, but at the same time I'm keen to always use them so they gain experience, and that's just like a really crazy hardcore method that I'm trying that I really shouldn't, and I probably won't next time I play the game. But
especially in this game, because you have the tower which you can use to grind, and if you want to get your weak units up, just go to the tower instead of trying to put them on the battlefield. It's just much easier.
Okay, I might try that. But so I'm gonna not complete this game anytime soon. Because I'm really struggling with it, and it's obviously a very long game. But my first impressions, really do like the game, although I've said an awful lot of negative stuff about it. I do love it, and it's just a bit hardcore at times, and I need to really motivate myself to play it sometimes. But definitely going to keep going, keep slogging away, and I will get better at it, learn the units better, and I will talk about it in future episodes of the podcast. But moving on to another game which I definitely picked up and got into far more quickly, and I'm very much enjoying it, and that's Metroid Fusion.
Best game ever!
So both these games have a thing in common, NBZ, that you were dying for me to like play both of them, and I'd never played either of them before.
Yes.
Obviously Fire Emblem had mixed feelings, but overall I did like it, and Fusion I'm currently really liking it actually. Really do think that this is a solid game. It's really difficult. There's plenty in it for me to struggle with, and I definitely am struggling with it. And at the same time, the level design is really cool. I quite like the story. The graphics are nice.
It's just that it's such a bright and colorful Metroid game. Like Super Metroid doesn't have as varied a color palette, and especially the Metroid Prime games, they're quite drab. They're kind of browns and greens and that kind of thing, much more akin to sort of like a modern military shooter or that kind of thing. Whereas Fusion is just, because of the main conceit, I can't say words, the main conceit of you absorbing these X's, and they're all varied colors, and your suit is bright blue and everything. I feel like they play a lot more with that in this world, and it makes it much more vibrant, which is really nice and much more appealing. I think if a game is colorful, it invites you much more into it, and Metroid Fusion is one of those games which is dastardly in its seductions, because it draws you in and then you realize that, Jesus Christ, this is tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really feeling that, to be honest, because even on the first boss I must have died like 3 times, and I was so not prepared for just when there's a boss jumping around a stage, you just feel so defenseless. It's ridiculous. There's no like sort of shield like you would have in something like Zelda, and you just seem to have to, all your evasiveness is you're relying on dodging and jumping and hanging onto walls and wall jumping, and it's really tough. And like I just was not prepared for that amount of action so early on with the bosses, and that is something that continually through the game so far. I think I've done 4 bosses now. All of them I really, apart from one, I really did struggle, and I think I died on all the bosses apart from one, so far. And that's not even so much me working out how to defeat the bosses, it's me just going in there guns a-blazing and getting absolutely ass raped by these bosses that just sort of walk all over you and do tons of damage. And I'm really struggling.
I think the main thing about Metroid bosses is they are bullet sponges, and you basically just need to just hammer on the missiles and hammer on the beam and the charge beam if you can as much as possible once you realize what their exposed area is, and when you kind of figure that out and you're like, okay, this is where I need to target, this is where I should be putting my shots. But you know, I agree with you, there is that problem when you go into the fight. They throw everything at you from the beginning. I mean, the first boss battle you have is against this dude who, you know, basically he has the morph ball ability, and so he's kind of using it. He like turns into the shell and rolls into the wall. So if you're hanging off the wall, he'll knock you off it. There's usually fire on the ground. He's using his claws to throw those scratches your way, which can hit you from a short distance. And it's very tough because he's using like several different patterns at once, and you don't really have time to breathe and get accustomed to what those are. You're losing health very quickly, and yet you're not really damaging him at this point because you're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on. So I think, like, very much with Metroid, you'll go into a boss, die quickly, but you'll learn a lot. You'll learn, like, okay, this is what he does, this is the kind of the order in which those patterns occur, how can I approach this next time, and how can I go back there and make sure the same thing doesn't happen again. And it is a sort of trial and error that you're going through.
It's very much like, for me, a learning process, and to be honest, that's one of my favourite things about this game, is that I have never, to my knowledge, actually played this sort of 2D shooter in any form whatsoever, and it's just really a breath of fresh air for me to experience this sort of platformer slash shooter and adventure game all in one, and I'm just sort of quite mind blown by it, to be honest. And I really love the sci-fi theme to the whole thing. I think the X Parasite and the SAX in particular is really freaky and quite intimidating, and it really adds to sort of how the game feels, because you're constantly wondering what's around the next corner. You never know, like, oh, there might be some terrible enemy, and often there is a terrible enemy round the next corner, and there's so many little secrets and things like that, and it's just, I'm really enjoying this game. It's really tough, and I'm constantly dying going back to the most recent save point, but I'm just gonna have to accept that on my first playthrough that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and you know, I'm very glad that you're enjoying it. It is, of course, probably my favorite game of all time. So, you know, if you had issues with it, I was ready to shout you down. But fair enough.
My only issue is how difficult it is, and that's not really the fault of the game. That's just my own fault and the fact that I'm playing it for the first time. So I will get back to this one and talk about it in the future. But in the meantime, NBZ, what's new?
What is new? Well, I guess there's that Mario. He's been jumping around a few worlds or two. This is, of course, Super Mario 3D World, which I haven't played for a... Yeah, exactly. And that's something I want to address up front, okay. Probably. I haven't played it for like a week or so, because I haven't got access to my Wii U. It's at home right now. But I did play a significant portion of the game. I went through the main, like 7-8 worlds or so, and I'm unlocking kind of the post-game content right now. And I did talk about it briefly on, I think, episode 2, but as this game has gone on, I've kept kind of expecting things. I've kept expecting EAD Tokyo to come out with the magic and blow me away, and it just hasn't happened yet. And I think maybe that's partially due to the fact that Nintendo did reveal a lot about this game before it came out, and so the things which may have had impact on first time playing don't have that kind of, you know, look at this is crazy moment anymore. It's like, oh yeah, that was the thing in the trailer, okay, let's do it. And so a little bit of the magic's taken away there, which is unfortunate, but it's just not really grabbing me in the same way that 3D Land did, which I'm surprised by, and also, you know, somewhat disappointed, because this is a game I've been looking forward to, and especially after the new trailers that came out, I think it was the Nintendo Direct, I was really excited for it, and I was really looking forward to it, but it's just not got me in its grip, you know. I feel there's this problem with me getting frustrated with the game at points as well. There's the new catsuit, of course, which they introduced, and I'm actually not a big fan of it. Like, There are
Wow.
things that you kind of expect it to do that it doesn't. I keep expecting to be able to hover like a tanuki after I've gone up something, because you get to the top of something and you want to be able to have that hover ability to kind of recorrect yourself, and it's not there, and it kind of just feels jarring because it's a very similar looking suit to the tanuki suit, and yet it doesn't have that ability involved with it. And I just kind of have this dissonance from it where I'm trying to use it effectively, but I keep dying as a result. And my deaths are not necessarily a result of my own fault. I feel like a lot of it is to do with the design of this game not having 3D in terms of like stereoscopic 3D like the 3DS does. Because I really kind of underestimated how much that is necessary to the experience in 3D Land. The way that you time jumps and are able to land on specific platforms with such precision is so much more difficult in this game, because there's no real way of knowing. There's the shadows beneath you, but those are so surface and kind of very difficult to see that it puts you in this position where you're like, okay, well, I fucked up there, but I couldn't really have done anything about it, and it's a little bit disappointing. Now, it's not all negative, of course. There have been some fun parts, and I really enjoy the levels where they put you on the giant dinosaur. They showed a couple of these. I think they showed one of the levels at E3 where you're basically riding through this track, similar to, remember in Galaxy they had like the manta ray race. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I really enjoyed those bits actually.
Yeah, those use like the motion controls
Yeah.
to move this manta ray over this band of water which was floating in midair, which was crazy because it had like just water there in Galaxy, and later found out that idea they basically already invented.
Water in Galaxy.
Yeah, no. The idea of just suspended water in midair is something that Yeidi Tokyo really likes. It's in this game as well, but they started it in Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, which I only found out when I played that game last year. And yeah, it's really interesting. That kind of has carried through, and they keep using it. But yeah, going back to the dinosaur levels, those are a lot of fun. Not only because they look stunning, like that's something that I will get to as well. This
Dinosaur
is very positive.
levels.
Yeah, where you're riding on the giant dinosaur thing, like
Oh
down
right,
a track.
I see. Okay,
Yeah. I really like those, and they have been really interesting. And the thing I like about them is that going back through the level to try and get the secrets, you're not feeling like, oh god, if I die then I have to start again, because it's so much fun. Like, those levels are so much fun and I enjoy them so much that going back through those levels is not a chore. Whereas a lot of the time I'll feel with levels that if I'm going back through them to collect all the green stars and to get the stamp, it feels like a bit of a chore, because if I fuck up then I have to start all the way back at the beginning. And there are checkpoints in the middle, but some levels they just have so much content post checkpoint wherein both the stars are, and some of the stars will be so devilish that you'll only get it like randomly by luck. So if you fuck up a bunch of times, you have to go through the entire thing again, and it can just get annoying. And maybe this is a thing to do with the way I've been playing this game. I've been trying to do it less by basically hammering my head against the wall to try and get every collectible in every level before I move on.
Oh, are you still doing that?
I've moved away from doing it because
Okay,
it was kind of
I was worried for you.
It was sucking the fun out of it a lot. It was just getting to that point where I was like, I'm not enjoying this right now, because I want to finish this and get everything and move on with my life. Now that I've kind of freed myself from that somewhat, it's getting better to go through these worlds, but there's not really that excitement that I had with Galaxy.
Are there other cool power-ups?
I mean, there's nothing huge. Like I've gone through the ones they've already shown, like the piranha plant, the cat suit, the double cherry.
Piranha plant?
Yeah, you pick up the piranha plant and it eats stuff in its way. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I've done all those basic levels, and then they bring back the Tanuki suit, they bring back the Boomerang Brothers suit, which is fantastic. That's an awesome suit, and I really like it. But there just isn't that excitement. And you know, like when you first played Galaxy 2, and every level was just so unique and different and exciting, and there's so much being recycled in this game.
But do you remember we were always like, after Galaxy and Galaxy 2, we were like, what on earth is Nintendo going to do next? And rather than sort of take it to Galaxy Cubed or whatever, they've taken it back a step, it feels. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I definitely feel there's a regression. A lot of it is to do with the reuse of these Galaxy ideas, which they still kind of try and shoehorn in, like, you know, the jumping to flip the panels, so the red and blue panels, and as soon as you jump, one will flip to the other side. I've seen that before. Like, it doesn't excite me because I'm familiar with that concept, and I know what's going on. So it's, I really want to like this game. I really do, and I am, but there's just this thing holding me back from fully embracing it because it just doesn't do anything that is blowing me away.
Do you think us trying out the multiplayer will improve it at all?
I think it will vary things up and make it a little bit more interesting. But I'm not sure if it'll actually improve the experience, because I feel a lot of the time with co-op multiplayer, you struggle. I mean, it depends on who you're playing with, of course. I was playing with you, then it would be a lot better than, for example, when I tried to play Donkey Kong Country Returns with my cousin, and when I tried to play New Super Mario Brothers with my cousin, where it was
How old was your cousin?
Like 7, 8.
Cool.
So yeah, that's not a good experience. So maybe it'd be different.
What did it need then to provide you with that almost Galaxy-like experience?
It just needed fresher and more bold ideas. Like, I feel like they're treading water here. Like, they're almost afraid to go over the top with it. And now, granted, look, I haven't got to all the special worlds yet, and I don't know what's in store for me there yet. So I could come back on the next show and be completely turned around on it. But so far, from what I've seen, there hasn't been anything that has blown my socks off. Like, there's nothing, there's none of the craziness that I expect from this team. And that is the disappointment there. It just kind of sucks, really.
So the Miiverse stamps don't pull this game up at all?
You know, they're cool. I like them. They're really neat. And that's a really an interesting and fun way. You know what? Miiverse integration is pretty cool with this game, because if you get to the end of a level and you've missed a star and you're like, God, where is that star? If you just wait at the end, some of the Miiverse posts scroll along the top. And sometimes the Miiverse post will say, hey, do this to get this star, and you're like, oh, that's what I needed to do. So you'll go back in and you actually know where to go this time to get the star. So the kind of community aspect of it, where you're asking other people, like, how do I do this and where do I go, and other people are right there playing the game at the same time as you, at the same level as you are, and they're able to respond instantly, essentially, which is super great. I think that more games should definitely implement that. Oh, I don't want to leave this negative, because it's just been
let's have a final little positive.
What I will say is that the game looks glorious. It is a beautiful, fantastically well implemented art style into 1080p, and it just is sublime. Without a doubt, the best looking Wii U game out right now, and I know it doesn't have a huge amount of competition, but it is staggering. And I feel like there is this thing with, you know, new consoles coming out and people spouting about how good, like, Rise looks on Xbox One, or how good Forza looks. You know, I really don't care that they look that great, because this is fucking good enough. Like, I don't feel that Mario can look much better than this. There's obviously technical ways to make it look better, but it's just brilliant. It really is, and I think that is a positive feeling that I'm getting. Is the visuals are outstanding. So that is going to be it for what we've been playing, I feel, and hopefully over the holidays play some more Mario, and we'll get some multiplayer on the go, and then next time we can come back, hopefully I'll have finished the game by then, and we'll have some more interesting stuff to talk about, but we are going to close out this segment, and we will be back with what's coming up, Bally?
The Nintendo Direct reaction.
Indeed, it'll be a reaction and a half. So we'll see you guys in a second. Okay, so we're back with some more of this podcast, and a couple of weeks ago, a little thing called Nintendo Direct happened, which is a lot of crazy and strange announcements. The first of which we're going to talk about is it's the. Can you just tell me, Bally, what's going on?
Hyrule Warriors, NBZ.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck? Have I, fallen into an alternate reality right now?
Although I'm yet to discover who the other Hyrule Warriors are other than Link.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
they call it... That's a tentative title right now. So, this is the news that Dynasty Warriors Cross Zelda is a thing. I don't think if you take, the strongest crack... and go on a roller coaster and then fall off a bridge, you would be in a state where you would say something this crazy. It seems like it's like one of those things that no one in history ever thinks is going to happen, and then it does, and you're like, why? You know? Oh my god.
It just looks so bad.
Yeah.
It just...
So here's the thing. You're taking Zelda, and you're stripping out the most lovable, important, and interesting facts about it, and you're just basically putting the crazy combat there, which seems okay, and it's a bit of a spectacle, but apart from that, it doesn't really seem to have much depth to it. And I mean, Dynasty Warriors games traditionally are not very... they're pretty much one note. In the way that it's very combat focused, and you have hundreds and thousands of enemies on screen, and you just slaughter them, and that's about it. And it just doesn't really have anything more than that. There's nowhere else for it to go, you know?
Are we missing something here? Could you maybe argue that Dynasty Warriors is more popular in somewhere like Japan, and maybe this is a way to rocket launch the Wii U into sales, or... is that just a stab in the dark?
No, I think you're onto something there. I definitely think that Dynasty Warriors is much more popular in Japan, and definitely when you take two franchises that are really big sellers there and put them together, then you're going to result in something pretty cool. So I think that is definitely the angle that they're coming from here. But of course, because it's Zelda and because it's such a massive franchise for Nintendo, they're obviously going to show this in a Western Nintendo Direct, and their intention is to bring it over here as well. Traditional Dynasty Warriors games, how often do they come over here? I guess they do because there is somewhat of a following, but they never really sell that well. This is easily going to be the best-selling Dynasty Warriors game in the West. There's no question about that. Just by slapping Link on there. Look at what happened to Soul Calibur 2. That's one of the best-selling games on GameCube. Why? Because Link was in it, and that continues to be the most popular version of that game. It's a way of... pushing out a key franchise without having to dedicate internal resources to develop a game, but also kind of, draw in some people.
It just looks so bad, though. The graphics and everything just looks so shoddy. It's meant to be an HD Wii U, and it just looks like a GameCube game.
I will say that definitely the visual aspect is a weak part of Dynasty Warriors, and It's very clear that this is not being developed by Nintendo. There is such a huge lack of polish. There's jaggies and the character model is a bit weird, and just the animations are kind of strange as well.
I can't believe they just gave them the keys to just doing Link and Zelda, and it's just
it is a strange thing, and it doesn't happen that often that Nintendo will take one of their marquee franchises and almost like whore it out in this way. It's like, well, yeah, I guess, but that's a really strange decision. But maybe it will be incredible. We don't know, Bally. Prejudging is.
What does this game have to do for you to buy it, though? Like, surely it has to get amazing reviews or something.
Definitely, it has to do well on the critical front. Obviously, we listen to loads of podcasts, so we'll get a good kind of feedback loop as to how the game performs and what it's like and what it does that's interesting, if it does anything interesting. And in that case, yes, I will be tempted to, just because of the association with Zelda. But otherwise, yeah, it seems very passable. But it could be interesting. We'll see.
Such a curveball.
Absolute curveball. I did not believe it when I saw it. It was crazy. But that wasn't the only thing. That was definitely the most ridiculous thing. But we got some more details regarding Kirby Triple Deluxe, and that game, talking a bit more details about how the 3D and 2D works, and something about a new superpower. Do you have any interest in a Kirby 3DS game?
You know what? It actually looked pretty good. I'd not seen many of the previous screenshots or trailers, if there had been any. Had there been any?
There had been one trailer, I believe.
Well, it actually looked pretty good, to be honest. And if there's not a whole lot of 3DS games on the horizon that I'm keen on picking up, other than like old titles, and if I'm free at the time that this comes out, then I might pick it up, to be honest. It looked pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of very passe on Kirby. Like, it's the interesting ones, the Kirby games which do something different is where my interest is peaked. So stuff like Kama's Curse and what's the one with multiple Kirbys? Can't remember now.
Yeah, but this one has like, that rhythm game in it and shit.
Yeah, I don't know, that there's lots of the kind of the side bonus games. It's almost like Monkey Ball Kirby, where they put a lot of emphasis on like the mini game stuff. But that just doesn't appeal to me anymore, honestly. And there are much better rhythm games out there. If I'm going to get a Kirby game, I'm not buying it for the sole purpose of playing a mini game that's like kind of rhythm based in the center of it. So I don't know. It's cool, but it's not really gonna turn my head.
It looks like a relatively solid title to add to an already great lineup of 3DS games, and it doesn't. I don't think it'll harm the system in any way. And it's good that Nintendo are churning out more great first-party titles.
Yeah, no, it's just added breadth to the library, and we can use that. So next thing was some more 2D platforming, because Nintendo fucking love that shit. We got Yoshi's New Island, which is being developed by Artoon.
That's a terrible name.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. See, the
We're
bad
being
thing
so
about
negative. Let's be positive.
Well, I mean, it's how positive can you be about a follow-up to a game that most people consider utter trash, and being developed by the same developer as well? Now, granted, they did mention that.
I thought it's the same guy who did the original SNES version. Iwata said.
So that's what they said. They said Tezuka's involved in this game, and he was behind the wheel for the original. However, lots of people have been saying that he was in fact in a producing role on the previous Yoshi's Island game as well. And that didn't help that game a lot. So I don't know, still some skepticism here, honestly. Artoon,
the art style looks horrendous. It just looks
it looks super ugly.
Out.
It reminds me a lot of Mario and Luigi Dream Team, which I don't like the art style for that either. It's just kind of pixely, it doesn't have that clarity and crispness.
Copy the SNES art style. It would have been
if they just took sprites and just made them even more crisp, and added some kind of 3D layering, some what do you call them, parallax scrolling. That would be cool, I think. But this developer, they have a poor pedigree, and I'm not expecting a huge amount out of this game, honestly.
Kirby honestly looks better than Yoshi by some way.
Kirby looks miles better, yeah. If I was to pick one, I would choose Kirby in a heartbeat. There's not even a question about that. Not to mention that I'm not actually a huge fan of the gameplay in Yoshi's Island anyway, so...
Oh, that's a good game. Anyway.
Well, each to their own. So that's that. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, Cranky Kong, who got revealed for like the 12th time. Yeah,
it's the way Iwata said it to us as though we didn't know already. Like, it was so strange.
He had this build up. He had this build up of like, oh, so we had a Dixie. Okay, now I'm not gonna impersonate Iwata.
Wow.
God damn it. But he was like,
you heard it here first.
So we already announced Dixie Kong to add to Diddy Kong, and now Cranky Kong is in the game. Yay! Oh God, I don't know. Look, okay, I have no doubt that Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is going to be a fantastic, tight, well-designed, beautiful, and interesting platformer, but it isn't an interesting franchise right now, and with the amount of 2D platformers that are already on Wii U, that is the main kind of genre that permeates throughout the lineup, it just doesn't get anyone really excited, and announcing new characters for a game that already doesn't have a huge amount of buzz around it is, I feel, not the best way to promote it. But I don't know, that's just kind of my opinion. Cranky Kong looks cool. He's using his cane like Scrooge McDuck in DuckTales, and that's a neat aspect to it, but it's not really that original as well. So
are you gonna pick up this game?
It's coming out in the doldrums. It's coming out in February when there won't be a lot on Wii U. There'll be nothing first party, so I might be tempted to, just because I really enjoyed my time with Donkey Kong Country Returns on 3DS, the remake for that. But I know it'll be hard, and I know it will be a game that may cause me to be very frustrated, but you need that every once in a while. You need that tough as nails platformer to kind of to stick it to you and say, hey, you need some practice here. You need to
Fusion.
Oh, well, very different kind of style, but
it's less platforming. You're right. But...
Definitely. So that's there, and I guess we will await it because it is going to be coming out. And then, moving on, we had some news about Sonic Lost World, which is very interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, it's something about this Nintendo Direct about strange crossovers. So Sonic Lost World, which is a game that's already out on 3DS and Wii U, is getting new DLC, and the DLC is Nintendo themed because it's tying into Yoshi's Island. Like, so the stage is a 2D stage with Yoshi's Island backgrounds and enemies from Mario games like piranha plants and everything, and it's basically within the suit of a Sonic game because it is a Sonic game. It's just kind of slapped on there, and then they did a kind of little extra bonus thing where Iwata was like, and now to link to this thing, and then like there was a picture of Sonic and there was a Triforce on this. It's basically, they're trying to hint at the fact that there will be a second DLC pack which is going to be based on Zelda. I think that's going to be pretty cool, honestly. Especially if they do it as a more 3D Sonic level as opposed to the side-scrolling one, because I think a Zelda kind of style would fit that better.
This is so strange, though. I'm just baffled. I can't believe we're talking about this. There's like a Yoshi stage in a Sonic game and a Zelda one to come. It's like,
dude, go back to fucking
weird.
Go back to the 90s and tell a kid that one day Sonic will be running around in Zelda universe. Like, what the fuck?
God, it's like...
They would have called it hard bullshit, like, instantly.
Is this what Nintendo do with their backs to the wall? They just come up with the most crazy shit ever. Yeah. It's just... Some of this is good, some is bad, and, I guess that's what it is.
They're going to pull it out sometimes. So, so that's the thing. Obviously, I'm not sure. Like, this is the thing. This Nintendo Direct has a lot of things that is cool if you already own a Wii U or a 3DS, but nothing here is compelling you. Like, what's the point of releasing these DLC things for a game that probably didn't sell that well in the first place? Is it really going to get people to go out and buy the game? I'm sure there are fanatics, Zelda fans who are utterly crazy, who want everything that Link appears in or is Zelda themed, and will do that, but that's a giant minority, and it's not really going to push that game in terms of sales, so I don't know if it's really a good thing.
I guess
to be
they're in the
focusing
mindset that every little helps, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
it's weird.
Nintendo, Asda, they both have similar philosophies.
Certainly.
Anyway, a bit more news on Wii Sports Club, which, of course, so far they have released tennis and, is it bowling?
Tennis, bowling, and now golf, yes.
So golf is going to be the third one that they release. And this is a callback to the first time they revealed the Wii U in 2011. It was E3 2011, where they showed, during the sizzle reel of the things that the gamepad can do, it was on the ground and the person was looking down at it in order to make their golf swing, and they would see the what's it called in golf? A
tee?
No, it's the stick. I'm being an idiot.
Pin.
Oh my god. No. No, the thing that you hit it with.
A club.
A club.
Holy shit!
Wow, I'm an idiot.
Serious?
Yeah. Oh,
But
God,
no, the stick.
I had a massive mind blank. So you can see the head of the club, and I'm not sure how much that really changes things. It looks really very gimmicky to me. I'm not sure, Bally, you have much more experience with golf in general. Do you think this would aid?
It's a nice idea that you swing and you can see your ball on the ground, but you're not actually making contact with the ball. So I struggle to see how it changes anything. And surely you want to look at the screen where you can see your power meter and stuff like this. So yeah, it seems really gimmicky. Really gimmicky. I mean, obviously they've introduced more hook and fade, he said. Iwata said, but you could do that without having to plonk your Wii U pad on the floor, pretend that it's the ground. It's I don't know. Maybe there's something we're missing that they will talk about more. But on the face of it, it just looked a bit rubbish.
Yeah, definitely. So that's that.
A whole new course is a good idea. That looks cool. A
whole new course. Place. Oh yeah, that was weird. Iwata's like, so I worked on an NES golf game 25 years ago, and we just decided to take that and take the courses and the holes from that game and just put them in this one because fuck it,
Nintendo logic.
Right? I don't know.
And you could tell he was so proud to tell you about that as well. He's like, I worked on this game 25 years ago, and it's just like,
I'm old, by the way, in case you didn't get the memo.
It's just sort of that little hint, like suggesting we're a company that's been around a really long time, and even though all this stuff is massively crazy shit, we actually know what we're doing. That's what he was basically saying, and it was like, yeah, I'm not buying it.
So let's remix it with some NES remix. Bally, what do you think of this? This is nuts.
Well, it looked a bit strange on the first viewing, but having listened to and read stuff after, apparently it'll be sort of like WarioWare, and you're playing short aspects of these 12 NES games and sort of linked together. Like you said earlier, that there's Link is in Donkey Kong and just crazy stuff like that. I don't know, why not? It seems like a really random thing to do. Why not just release all the 12 NES games the way they're meant to be?
Because this is how you make money, Bally. You play on nostalgia, and people will buy it.
Will people buy this?
fucking loads of people will buy this shit. Are you kidding me? Taking like their beloved games and mixing them up and doing strange stuff with it. Hell yeah, people will buy this.
Just like the new Nintendo is all about hybridizing games.
It is, yeah.
Here's retro Donkey Kong. Let's stick Link in there. Oh, that'll make it sellable. It's so strange.
Like, it doesn't really change anything about the gameplay. It's basically a palette swap, right? You know.
Yeah, it's just.
It's cool though. You know, I'm not going to deny it. It's a really crazy.
Are you gonna buy it?
Probably not, but that's because I don't
Exactly.
have. No. But I mean, that's because I don't have nostalgia for NES games. I'm not really a fan of any NES game in general. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't appeal to me on that level. But I can certainly see why people would go for it. And it's not like they're just hashing out the games. They're bringing them out and doing a WarioWare style thing with mini challenges and all that good stuff. I don't know how much content is in this game. That's what worries me a little bit. Like, is the price tag justified for the amount of content? Because I don't know if you can, you know.
But people who are crazy enough to just be like, right, I need this game, are gonna buy it before they have any recollection of how much content they've just invested in. It's just gonna be an impulse, like, oh, yeah, NES mini games, let's go, and it's just gonna be a real impulse buy rather than a sort of. I don't think there'll be much content here. Do you?
No, probably not. But I don't know. We'll find out. So that's another crazy thing. How about let's talk about the year of Luigi, which is apparently now the year and a half of Luigi because they are still releasing Luigi-based games. We've got Dr. Luigi, which is Dr. Mario, but instead it's Dr. Luigi, and instead of these simple pills, they are now L-shaped. Can you believe it? It's like some crazy new idea. I've never seen such a thing before, Bally. How do you feel about this innovation?
I've never played Dr. Mario, and by changing the pills into L's and introducing Luigi hasn't exactly made me go, oh, I better play it now. Oh my god, I've been missing out. Like, better get in on these L-shaped blocks. I'm just like, it's an old game. Like, you need more to freshen it up than that.
But I mean, it's basically Tetris, right? It's essentially Tetris.
It's Candyland.
Oh, I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Not Candyland. Why am I saying
Candy Crush.
Yeah, it's Candy Crush. So Candyland's like a board game.
It's a match 3, but it's a Tetris-based match 3. I think the goal is to just basically get rid of all the diseases that are kind of there in the way by matching up the color of them. So it's a bit more simplified.
I didn't think there's a market still for puzzle games like that.
Look, there definitely is a market. There's a lot of people who enjoy these games and who go back to them constantly. Definitely, there is definitely a section of the audience who are super into that kind of that style of puzzle game, and will pay top dollar for it, and that's what you will be doing, because I think this thing is $15, like $7.99 or $8.99.
It's starting to feel like everything in this Nintendo Direct was aimed at crazy Nintendo fans who will buy anything as long as it has NES games in it, or it has Luigi on it, or it has Zelda in a motherfucking Dynasty Warriors game. It's like there's all these games that are, if you're mad about that franchise, you're going to pick up this game even though we've done something crazy with it, sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, so I feel like it is going against everything that they need to do with Wii U right now. They are playing to such a niche audience. I mean, who the fuck goes out and buys a Zelda Cross Dynasty Warriors game? Only the most hardcore of gamer.
Like, did anyone want Dr. Mario to come back? People have been begging for loads of other games to come back and other franchises, and all of a sudden we get Dr. Luigi. It's just so random.
Well, Dr. Mario was on Wii in the WiiWare catalog.
Yes,
it was a WiiWare game. So I guess they're just drawing from that and being like, yeah, we can reskin this and make it 1080p, and that's what they did. So anyway, let's talk about something which is probably the most interesting news. It's generally anything that's involved with Smash is interesting. I feel.
Okay, yeah, no, this is true.
And Jesus Christ, Sakurai, what a massive troll! What an utter fucking troll!
What was
Because
up with that intro?
dude, that trailer was like I was set on having fucking Nintendo Kart announced. Like I was shit,
there.
dude.
I was
like
there.
shit, dude. They have changed Mario Kart 8. They're ripping it apart. Kirby's gonna be in it. And then when Kirby got knocked out of the sky, I was like, fuck it, man. That's Star Fox. Star Fox is gonna come out riding out the stars, and he's gonna zoom along the track, and he's gonna like zoom in on him. He's be like, oh god, Nintendo Kart, all the characters. And then like fucking Captain Falcon was gonna come on. It's gonna be crazy. And then that didn't happen. Instead,
and then the Galaxy Star appeared, and I was like, huh? Like, we're going back, oh, and then it's like, oh, and it all fell into place, and anyway, yeah, it was a bit of a.
Yeah.
I interrupted your story. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. But I mean, like that was what I was expecting. And the weird thing was that before the trailer started, Iwata was talking about that game, and I was like, oh, it's Smash Brothers. It's a Smash Brothers trailer. And it started, and it looked like the Smash Brothers art style that they've been using. And I was like, yeah, okay, this seems cool. Kirby flying through space. But then the head fake is when you see the Mario Karts, and you see Kirby on the star, and you're like, holy shit, is this Mario Kart now? And they put in...
like Mario Kart plays such a small role in Smash Brothers, and for them to have Mario Karts in the Smash Brothers trailer is just really rich. That is cheeky. That is really that is really, really sneaky. There's no need for it, you know?
It is. Sakurai is just a massive troll.
It's like a trailer that starts with, I don't know, Skull Kid running along with the Majora's Mask on, and it's just like, oh, it's a Smash Brothers assist trophy. It's not Majora's Mask on 3DS, you silly buggers.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Oh my god. So let's talk about Rosalina then. So she was introduced as a new Smash Brothers character, and I'm really happy about this. I play Rosalina in Mario Kart, as you well know, and I think she's a really cool character. And I definitely think that the introduction of her plus the Luma has some interesting repercussions as to whether she's going to play like an Ice Climber style character. But then there was this instant where one of the parts of the footage, her and the Luma were acting independently of one another, where she hit, I think, Luigi from one side and he hit Mario from the other, and they both went flying off in separate directions. Like, they were both attacking, but they were attacking different targets, which was really strange. I'm not sure how that's going to play into the actual mechanics of her character.
Surprisingly enough, I didn't really see Rosalina coming into this game, and then when she did come in with this announcement, I wasn't really that... It was a nice announcement, but I wasn't like, oh my god, Rosalina's in it. I'm not as big of a Rosalina fan as you are, evidently, but she looked cool, and you're right, that independent fighting between her and her, what's it called, a star?
Luma.
Oh, it's a Luma. What was I going to say? I was going to say like something ridiculously embarrassing. But yeah, so between her and the Luma, that's cool. That's cool. And it's everyone's comparing it to Ice Climbers, but the Ice Climbers don't really act independently of each other. So there's definitely something new about her that's going to affect how you control her and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, well, we'll find out more about that. But let's finish it off with the way Nintendo did, with a Mario Kart trailer that
showed some cars driving around some tracks.
Showed some cars driving around some tracks. Both of us are evidently very disappointed with the way that Mario Kart 8 is looking right now. It just seems so drab. It seems so formulaic. It seems just there's no freshness. There's nothing new or interesting or diverse or just out the wheelhouse. It's a Mario Kart, and Nintendo knows it's going to sell, and they've added some stuff which they think is going to be cool, like the gravity, and it just doesn't strike me as anything interesting. Bally, are you?
They from everything I've seen, and from the really slow E3 demos, they need to do something to change this game. Gravity's not going to cut it. Like, they either need to, in my opinion, add a second person onto the cart, which I really don't think they're going to do, or just really, really, really increase the speed to the point where it's similar to F-Zero. Just to freshen it up. That'd be cool, right? Like, you know?
Yeah, and especially thematically here would fit in because it's much more hover-based, you know, with the wheels turning on their side. I think that would be cool, but... you know, in reference to how slow it is in terms of the E3 stuff, that tends to happen. I remember, like, Johnny on RFN was talking about how previously when he played Mario Kart, maybe it was Double Dash or Wii, played at E3, it was super slow, but then by the time the game came out, it was perfectly fine. So, you know, that's just fine-tuning. I feel that's probably going to be the case there, and it should be okay by release as long as they pay attention to that stuff. But, yeah, That's pretty much it. That was how the Nintendo Direct ended, and it was a really just, you know, Nintendo Directs fall into one of two categories. Either it's super disappointing and is nothing new, or it is mind-blowing and blows your socks off and you're like, holy shit, they've done it again. This fell into a really strange place where nothing was disappointing necessarily, nothing was standing out as amazing, but it was just weird. It was just a strange event all around, and I felt weird watching it, you know?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of amazing stuff I could take from it. Rosalina's probably quite cool. Mario Kart did look good, even though it did look a bit samey. I'm struggling after that, to be honest.
Yeah, a lot of it's kind of forgettable.
Kirby looked pretty cool, but certainly mixed.
Certainly mixed. Well, we're going to remix our way out of here, and we will return to you with our final segment of the show, which is where we're going to give you our predictions for the next year. So, stay tuned, and we'll be back. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the final segment of this Nintendo podcast. I was about to say Nintendo Direct, and I was like, no, it's definitely not
directly
what we're doing
to
here.
you.
Brought directly toward you. Okay, enough with the poor Japanese racism. Bali, lay me a prediction. So this segment we're basically going to be predicting stuff for 2014, and we'll talk about it, and maybe we'll revisit it and see how fucking wrong we are. But we're going to kick it off. So Bali, what do you got?
Right, I'm going to kick it off and say that Nintendo are going to do some sort... You're basically going to be able to play GameCube and Game Boy Advance games on either Wii U or 3DS.
So your prediction is that will happen this year, and we will be able to download GBA and GameCube games this year?
Yes, and that you will be able to play either on either console, and you'll have some sort of linked account in that sense rather than purely monetary.
Now, I think that there is credence to this simply because Nintendo did mention, if you remember, in a Nintendo Direct earlier this year, that Game Boy Advance games not coming to 3DS, coming to Wii U. I mean, obviously Game Boy Advance games will come to 3DS. No, they didn't say that they're not coming to 3DS, but obviously they will do. But they explicitly stated Game Boy Advance games will come to Wii U. So that is a telltale sign that we are very much moving towards the idea of cross-buy and cross-play, similar to how Vita and PS3 and obviously now PS4 does it, where you buy it for one price and you have it across both of the Nintendo platforms, and you are able to, play it on whichever one you want. and you don't have to double up.
Yeah,
basically.
I feel like coming out with the Game Boy Advance games and the GameCube games would be a good opportunity and timing to do that synergizing. Synergizing? Is that a word?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically making the consoles speak to each other in a much more meaningful way. We've already seen, obviously, very recently we had the update for Wii U, for 3DS, sorry, where you can now link your Nintendo Network ID, and so you can have the same account across both. And it works really nice with Miiverse, actually, because in Miiverse you can jump into either 3DS or Wii U communities and post to either one from whichever system, which is pretty non-Nintendo-like, I have to say. Usually they fuck up in some way and make it so that each one is distinguished from one another and you can't, encroach between the two, but they've done a good job here, and Miiverse is actually super well implemented on 3DS, and I've been having some fun with it, actually. It's been some good stuff there.
Awesome. Well, NBZ, what is your first prediction for 2014?
I'm going to start with a new Smash Brothers character. And I'm going to say that there will be a reveal of Phoenix Wright being in Smash. Now, a few reasons for this. Phoenix Wright has starred in a fighting game before. I believe he was in a Marvel vs. Capcom game, one of those.
Really?
Yeah, you know what? We should probably check that to make sure that that it's correct. Don't want to be told that I'm completely wrong here. Yeah, so Phoenix Wright is indeed in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And he was a playable character there. So there is, people might think, how the hell is Phoenix Wright going to play in the game? But, how the fuck did Game & Watch play in the game? He's been in Smash Brothers for a long time, and he's a character that is, he doesn't seem like he will be very useful, and yet he can actually do stuff. I think that Phoenix Wright's a really nice fit, not only because he is based mainly on Nintendo platforms, but also because he has some really interesting, context-sensitive moves that he would be able to use, like stuff based around lore and like using, saying objection and stuff like that, and throwing paper around, and pointing fingers and like shouting at people, and all that kind of crazy stuff. I really feel that you could implement that stuff well into Smash, and it just kind of fits into Smash because Smash is supposed to be crazy and ridiculous and weird and have all these characters that don't necessarily make sense, but still fit together in this cohesive and coherent universe. And Phoenix Wright is one of those characters that kind of fits in with your Marios and Zeldas in terms of like, how he's kind of cartoony, and his art style fits very much into the Nintendo realm. Do you think I'm crazy here? Do you think this is a possibility?
It could happen. I mean, I'd love to see more crazy characters. Like, I thought Mega Man was crazy in the sense that it was, oh my god, Mega Man in Smash, like that is big. I mean, Rosalina announced today is much less big in the sense that she's
it's much more of a low-key announcement. Yeah,
so you can't get much more first party than Rosalina other than like Mario and Peach and people like that. So
right.
I think that having those characters that are outside the bubble is awesome, and Phoenix Wright definitely fits into that category, which would be nice. So yeah, I'd be up for that.
Obviously, there's the possibility of Layton also, and Wright and Layton are very much intertwined. There's that game which involves both of them coming out in 2014, which I'm super hyped on. And there is the possibility that instead of Phoenix Wright, Layton could be. I think Layton's actually starred in more games on Nintendo platforms, so maybe he's a more likely candidate. But both of them work super well, and there has been the precedent set with Brawl that you can have third-party characters, because we had Sonic and we had Snake. I'm not quite sure if Snake's going to make a return this game. It doesn't seem like he would. I don't know. He seems like one of those characters that maybe drop from the roster, especially with stuff like Metal Gear Solid 5 not being on a Nintendo platform. He's much less associated with Nintendo these days, and so maybe in his place comes something like a Phoenix Wright or something like a Layton, which is much more
appropriate.
Much more appropriate and fitting. Yeah, definitely. So I think that could be a good shout there, and we could be in for a Phoenix Wright character reveal at some point along the line.
So my next prediction is more wishful thinking. That's not to say that it won't happen, but it is to say that I'd be lucky if it does happen, and that is that either there will be an F-Zero game or an Advance Wars game in 2014 on either 3DS or Wii U. Both franchises.
Very, very wide open prediction here, Bally. Lots of if this, if that.
Well,
either or. Two games, maybe this system, maybe that system.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that come 2015, neither of them will have happened, and we'll be back in this position being like, oh, should have made that prediction even wider. So, yeah, both franchises are very close to my heart. Certainly, I'm a big F-Zero and Advance Wars fan.
Both franchises very much dormant at this current time. We haven't seen new releases for a good number of years.
Yeah, the last Advance Wars game was on DS. I think it was Dark Conflict, which was 2000 and...
Probably 8.
It's like,
maybe.
I think even earlier than that, it's like 6, 7 maybe. But either way, a really long time ago. F-Zero is even worse, I think, actually. I think the most recent F-Zero game was Game Boy Advance, and it came out...
Probably 2003. I think actually this year is the 10th anniversary of F-Zero. It's 2003,
God, that's
I think.
so depressing.
10th anniversary of not having a game, I mean.
Ugh. And there have been some really negative interviews in the past with certain members of Nintendo. I can't remember who they were, but someone said, oh, there's nothing new we can do with the franchise, so we didn't think it was worth bringing out another one. And I was just like, my heart sunk. I was like, what?
That was a Miyamoto quote. He said that.
Yeah, which is pretty grim.
So someone with that much influence and power at a company basically says, yeah, you don't really care about it anymore, we're going to not do anything with it. Doesn't really put too much hope in the hearts of the hardcore fans.
Which is a real shame, because when the Wii U was announced, I honestly thought something like F-Zero or even something like Wave Race either of them would have been a solid first-party racing game on the Wii U, would have graphically looked incredible if they'd put the resources into it, and could have been not a system seller, but it would have rounded out a nice launch lineup sort of thing, you know?
It would have been a showpiece, is what it would have been.
Like Rogue Squadron was for the GameCube when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, look, racing games are very easy to make look good. Take a look at Forza with the Xbox One launch. That game looks fantastic. I actually went into HMV and they had a demo unit of Xbox One, and a dude was playing Forza, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that looks good. Like, it is a visual showpiece. I didn't have a go, no, I was just kind of wandering around, and the guy was kind of hogging it, so I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't really care about this game anyway, so...
Standard Xbox One fan.
Well, I just... I was content enough to just look at it and absorb its visual prowess, such as it was. But those games are very easy to make look good, and they are such good showcases for the power of the graphical fidelity of the system. And having an F-Zero at launch would have been that. It would have been a showpiece to say, fuck the haters. Wii U looks amazing, and look at this.
Exactly. And it's...
So what about Advance Wars then? That's another thing.
Yeah, I really love Advance Wars. I think it would... What I pray for, and I'm so jealous that, because their gaming systems are very similar in the sense that Fire Emblem and Advance Wars are similar, and you got Fire Emblem Awakening, which is, like you said, is almost like the Ocarina of Time of the Fire Emblem franchise, and it would just be glorious if Advance Wars could just have a 3DS game that they really pumped a lot of effort into, with the graphics, with this, well, maybe not story, there's never a good story in those games, but in the graphics and the gameplay and just the whole package, that would just be incredible. I don't know how well it would sell, probably not very well, But they really... It was one of the biggest games on Game Boy Advance. Maybe not biggest in sense of sales, but it was big in terms of critical reviews. It was, wow, this is a really good game that's only been in Japan previously, bringing it out in the West. Actually did half decent in the West. Great reviews, good game. Why not continue it on 3DS? It just seems a bit strange.
Yeah, it does, and especially with how they were pumping them out pretty well for DS. They had like 2, I think, on there. And,
I think there's 2 on GBA and 2 on DS, at least.
Yeah, at least. It's and see, here's the thing where I'm not really so certain that we will get one because of the success of Fire Emblem Awakening and how well received that game was across the board. I really feel that Nintendo are going to be pushing Intelligent Systems to be working on a successor to that game as opposed to going back to Advance Wars. Which I'm thrilled by, but clearly, you know, it would be nice to have diversity there as well. They did used to do the thing where they would just jump between the 2 franchises, and I suppose that that's still feasible that they could do that. But we'll have to see. I certainly wouldn't be disappointed if they were doing Advance Wars over Fire Emblem. Heck, it would be a good chance for me to jump into that series and kind of get my teeth into how that kind of system works. So. Yeah. I'd be interested in it.
Or even like what we were talking about earlier with the Game Boy Advance games coming to Wii U or 3DS. I just cannot wait to download some Advance Wars games. Like,
oh, definitely. Yeah.
Would you be willing to try one?
Perhaps. Yeah. There's definitely there's always a possibility there. So, awesome. Anyway, I'm going to move on to my second prediction, which is a trumpet I've been blowing for probably 7-8 years.
Dread?
Dread. God, dude, imagine if it came out and was called Dread. How great would that be? It would be
such a massive troll that I'd actually be annoyed with Nintendo not happy. Because Dread was revealed or whatever, so long ago. It's just like, oh.
It's just one of those myths right now. Anyway, let's be more specific here for people who don't have a fuck what we're talking. Don't have a clue
lingo.
What we're talking about. Yeah. So I predict in 2014 we will see the long-awaited return of the 2D Metroid, a gaming genre that we have talked about earlier in this podcast because Bally's been playing the last kind of fully original 2D Metroid to come out. Obviously Zero Mission came out after Fusion, but that was based on the original Metroid. It wasn't a brand new game. It was a reimagining, one might say. But it has been a long time since Metroid 4, which was Metroid Fusion, came out. And if you know me, you know that I fucking adore 2D Metroid. I think that it is one of the most satisfying, tight, and impressive experiences that one can have in gaming. And there are so many people and so many companies who recognize that it's an incredible genre because there are indie studios upon indie studios upon indie studios producing games in this vein because Nintendo aren't doing it themselves. Nintendo have all but abandoned the franchise in terms of the 2D games, and I want them to come back and be like, look, we can do this too, even though we've been gone a while and there have been some good games coming out. Like, you know, I backed a game on Kickstarter for the first time ever, which is called Ghost Song, and that game is essentially a 2D Metroid game. I saw it and I was like, holy shit, this looks like the 2D Metroid I want, and I instantly backed it like that just because I'm so compelled by experiences in that universe and that kind of setup. So yeah, it's just been a long time, and I want it to happen, man. I want it to happen.
If it was announced, I'd definitely be keen on picking it up. Having loved what I've played so far of Fusion, I think it'd be nice to see some crisp 3DS graphics on a franchise like that, and just some nice 3D effects on top of that.
They could definitely do a good job with a 2.5D style.
What about, would you prefer 3DS to Wii U, I take it?
I definitely prefer 3DS. I like those kind of games handheld. Wii U I wouldn't be against, but the thing with Wii U is I feel like they wouldn't take the risk of putting a brand new Metroid game which is 2D onto Wii U, because people will cry out and be like, what the fuck, where's my full 3D adventure full game? It seems like with the 2D stuff it's okay for platformers get away with it, but any other style of game, it seems like they're shirking on the so-called AAA quality of it by putting out a 2D version.
It'd be weird after doing like 2D Donkey Kong and 2D Mario U and
it just feels at this point that Metroid as a console franchise has established itself in 3D completely, and regressing on that just doesn't seem like it's something that would happen. It's definitely going to be a 3DS game, I feel. So anyway, there's my hope. So putting it on the line yet another year. I hope I won't be disappointed.
So my final prediction for 2014 is that Nintendo will release a version of the Wii U, and maybe they'll give it some fancy paint job or something, and it will have an extra large hard drive, and on top of that it will have some sort of reward system that allows the owners of that system to download Virtual Console games with a substantial discount. So this console will be aimed at the Nintendo hardcore fans who just want to download lots of Virtual Console games. What do you think?
I think that is completely outlandish. Utterly...
Well, you know what else is outlandish? Dynasty Warriors with Hyrule.
You're right. That is... Okay. I guess all bets are off. Fuck it. You're probably right. No. Okay, so the reason that I think that this is not going to happen is because Nintendo are floundering right now. Wii U is an utter failure. The NPD numbers from November were astonishingly bad, and they are in serious trouble with this system. If they are going to make a new version that is marketed towards such a niche group of people, then they're not serving themselves in a good way. They need this system to take off and sell to a wide audience, and by making a Wii U that is essentially focused as being a virtual console machine, that is not a proposition that I feel lots of people are going to take to, in all honesty. But defend it if you want. I mean,
I would defend it in the sense that while you won't sell more Wii U's to a wider audience, you might make a lot of money out of the hardcore, and ultimately, potentially, that's the only people who are ending up going to buy the Wii U. So it's basically, in my opinion, making good of a bad situation. That was the idea.
In terms of making this more appealing price-wise, do you think that they would cut the gamepad from this system if they were to release it?
Yeah, no, that's quite a good idea, actually. Although, perhaps one of the cool aspects of some Virtual Console games is the idea that you can play them on the gamepad, so maybe that would be a bad idea.
I think that's a cool aspect of any Virtual Console game, is that you can play on the gamepad, so yeah.
So maybe that would be a bad idea to drop the gamepad. At the same time, maybe there's plenty of fans who would just rather have the regular Wii U non-pad as, what's it called? Pro
controller. I also go against the notion that they would include a large hard drive, simply for the fact that Nintendo have been known consistently to say, look, we know that you want space, but quite simply and quite frankly, hard drive space and large amounts of storage are available elsewhere for cheaper, and they are quite happy with not charging you extra simply for increased storage, which is what the other companies do. And I mean, that's why you have the different tiers of PS3 and Xbox 360, where there is the low end one which has like 12 gigabytes or whatever, nothing basically, and then you have the 500 gig, which is much more expensive as a result of having more storage. Nintendo say, no, look, you know how much storage you need. We're not going to tie you down to the amount of storage that you need. Go out and find a hard drive. We'll make it easy for you to connect one and just have all your games on there and leave it at that. And I think that's their stance, and I'm pretty sure they're going to stick to that, in all honesty.
Fair enough.
So my final prediction here is going to be that Nintendo will reveal at E3 this year a brand new IP. And this is something that I feel has been on the cards for a long time. There's talk of Miyamoto working on his own brand new game, whether that is a smaller digital download or whether it's going to tie into a larger new franchise is yet to be seen. But he has been working on that game for like a year and a half at this point, as long as plans have still stayed in motion. And I feel that's going to be unveiled. Now, in terms of what type of game it is, that's a little bit harder to distinguish because Nintendo have covered a lot of genres, most genres it seems. I feel the main ones that they don't really target are the first-person shooter market, which is somewhat balanced by Metroid Prime, but Metroid Prime in all essence isn't a first-person shooter, it's a first-person action-adventure game. The shooting elements are not at the forefront there. It's much more about exploration and about the world and kind of exploring, because it's exploration. You know what I'm saying.
It's an adventure game.
Yeah. And so maybe, but that doesn't seem like Miyamoto's style. It doesn't seem like Nintendo style. If they were to do that, they would have to put their own spin on it and definitely not, lump it in with the stuff that you see on 360 and PS3. The other option is, an open world game in the vein of something like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead, or not obviously playing on those same themes because that's not how Nintendo roll, but making a brand new character, something that fits with the rest of their IPs, probably something more cartoony, but an open world game done by Nintendo with Nintendo sensibilities, and I think that could be really cool. I'm really interested to see how they would approach that kind of game, because as much as you can argue about Zelda and Metroid, they never really are fully open world. Like, you are going down a linear progression most of the time. There is a story that is focused. You can't, explore the entirety of the game world from the outset, and that's something that I think that they could do.
Did Miyamoto previously work on some small downloadable title? What was that again?
I don't think so. Not that I've heard of.
Never mind.
Maybe you're thinking of... So there's a game which came out on Virtual Console called Mole Mania. That was developed by Miyamoto, or it was, it's something to do with him back in the day. It's an old Game Boy game that he was involved with in some capacity, and that was released on Virtual Console, so maybe that's what's in your mind. I'm not sure.
I was going to suggest maybe, what about Nintendo doing something sandboxy?
That's what open world games are.
Oh. Okay.
What kind of, from what kind of perspective of a sandbox are you saying?
Oh god, I have no idea. It'd be awesome if they did some... Okay, now I'm kind of falling into... What's that Disney game that's...
Disney Infinity?
Yeah, like a Nintendo version of Disney Infinity.
If they did that with Pokemon...
With Pokemon thrown in there on top.
Look at the monies. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and maybe aspects of that idea were reminiscent with something like Nintendo Land. Not the actual gameplay, just the look and stuff.
The aesthetic, yeah.
And I'm sure the aesthetic would be very similar to Nintendo Land, and it'd be hard to move away from Nintendo Land aesthetic if they did something like that, but it'd be so cool, just...
Yeah, no, it definitely
It's asking a lot, obviously, and I don't think it'll be like that. It'll be something completely out of the blue in the same way that Pikmin was many years ago.
Indeed.
Pikmin was based on Miyamoto's garden, so we need to think of some other aspect of his life that he'll base this on.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, he was talking about in that one interview how they don't let him cycle to work anymore because, you know, he's too valuable. They don't want him, like, dying. um, so maybe, you know, his cycling, I guess that was already remedied in the Wii Sports, Wii Fit, whatever it was, where cycling was implemented there. So, you know, seems likely. Anyway, that's pretty much it. That's our predictions. Somewhat
They're all
outlandish.
gonna happen.
Yeah, we are the future tellers of things, and I guess we'll see. Very unlikely, but a man can dream, Ali. Man can dream.
Can indeed.
So. That is going to close out our show. However, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Bit more off the cuff than usual. But hey, you got to do that sometimes. You know, just go with the flow and see how it rolls off the tongue, teeth and the lips. So, Bally, Twitter, give me some of that plug. And
my Twitter is at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN 91. You can also find me under that name on Miiverse.
I see that you have learned how to spell your own name. Congratulations.
I know, I've learned a lot in the space of a few days.
Indeed. So I am Lordnbz on Twitter. You can follow me there. You can also find me on the Miiverses at Lordnbz also, and I will probably be posting some stuff from the 3DS. So look out for that, and give me some yeahs. I want some yeahs, people.
We didn't do listener questions this week, but we probably will next time. So continue to send your questions to NYPPQuestions at gmail.com. That would be much appreciated, and we will get on to those next time.
Definitely, we've only had, the episode, the last episode only just went up the day we're recording this, so there really isn't any feedback, so we can't. So hopefully we get some before the next time. So you guys got plenty of time to send stuff in. So go ahead and do that, and we will be happy to respond to it. So,
in the meantime,
but that's going to be it. That's going to close out our show. Bally, any closing thoughts here?
Happy New Year!
Indeed, I hope you guys have a happy New Year, and hope 2014 is going to be a good one. But yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back very soon with some more Nintendo talking, some more games, and some more interesting everything. So, thank you for listening. Thank you, Bally, for joining me.
Thank you, MBZ, for having me.
And we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.